Welcome to Chalk Talk. I'm Chris Love.
And I'm Jane Mackey.
I'm Zeke.
And Chalk Talk is presented by U.S. Sailing. U.S. Sailing offers a college membership to college sailors at a very, very discounted rate. You can check out all the details over at ussailing.org/college. We begin our weekend review in Cambridge, Massachusetts for the Boston Dinghy Cup. Combined efforts of hosts MIT and Harvard finished 12 races on Saturday, leaving only 5 left in the rotation to finish on Sunday. Shifty northerlies both days required sailors to look way up the course to anticipate the shifts, according to MIT head coach Matt Lindblad. Alec Anderson and combined efforts of James Bartline and Alyssa Seifert from Roger Williams win A Division, but Raul Rios and a list of crews took B Division for BC, which, when combined with a third in A and a sixth in C, was enough for the Eagles to take the win.
The Admiral Moore team race was sailed this weekend at SUNY Maritime College, where teams were greeted by howling winds in the high teens and low 20s alongside a ripping current Saturday morning. Head coach Russ O'Reilly told me that there were a lot of casualties out there and that there was a lot to be said for simply getting around the race course in an upright fashion. SUNY's race committee squad did a great job getting in a round and a half on Saturday, despite having to chase down some of their marks down the East River after they broke off from their anchors. Scores were pretty tight after day one, but on Sunday, Hobart and William Smith colleges separate themselves from the field a little bit, going undefeated in the second round despite one of their players spending some time upside down in one of the starting sequences.
The Dukeland is a one-of-a-kind women's team race held on the tricky Mystic Lake at Tufts. True to history, the Mystic Lake did not disappoint by greeting the sailors on Saturday with snow and ice in the boats and blustery conditions. The women sailed out of Medford Boating Club. The old boathouse has been reduced to a pile of dirt. After leading the regatta on Saturday and a spring break full of team racing training with the co-ed team, Yale was feeling pretty comfortable and BC was notably missing female skipper Erica Reinecke to the BDC. Yale had to beat BC in the last meeting of the two teams to win the regatta. They had a 1-2 off the start and crushed them. I heard that Yale was sailing faster and did well at team racing, whereas BC was a bit better at team racing, but not as good with the lark boat handling. Tufts finished in third, tailing by a couple more losses. Perhaps their performance was affected by team members being sick with stomach bugs from camping out in the cold at St. Mary's over spring break. There were lots of breakages with the lark mass. Hopefully that is not a sign of what's to come at New England's. However, Yale is feeling confident in their lark sailing capabilities, and hopefully that is a telltale of what's to come at New England's.
The Aaron Zambecki team race at ODU was kicked off by a very touching speech by head coach Mitch Brindley this weekend in memory of Aaron and his passion for the sport of team racing. The Monarchs busted out a brand new fleet of boats along with some new sails as teams went out in pretty dreary and light conditions Saturday morning. In fact, they were only able to get one race in before having to be sent back to shore for an onshore postponement. Nobody was complaining, though, as the members of the Town Point Yacht Club grilled up some dank hot dogs, and fun on the soccer pitch was had by all. They were able to head back out about 4 p.m. in the afternoon in some lovely sunny conditions and finish 2 more races each. BC led after day one. Teams woke up Sunday morning to more gloomy, cold conditions and went out in a dying breeze, but the race committee was able to finish the regatta getting in both 2 rounds, as well as a sail-off for 4th and 5th before time expired.
It is one of the premier events in the country. Despite the sleet that we had a while ago, it's great sailing. Our event management staff does a super job. We have the best umpires that are here, so they know it's fair sailing and really pull out all stops for it.
Scores were pretty close, but Stanford comes away with another victory at a big team race interconference. So congrats to those guys. Nice pick, Chris. College of Charleston Cougars finish 2nd, and the Georgetown Hoyas get 3rd despite having Hillary Kenyon and Chris Barnard riding the pine this weekend. I'm told that everyone, including umpires, coaches, and sailors, walked away from the ODU campus in a very warm and cuddly mood after receiving one of these outrageously soft blankets courtesy of the Zambecki family.
That looks pretty good, Zeke. Well, the top 3 teams remain unchanged since the last Sail1Design rankings, voted on by coaches from some of the top teams in ICSA. Stanford, Charleston, and Georgetown remain top 3, and if that listing sounds a little familiar, That's because it's the exact order of finishing at the Zambecki. St. Mary's gets a little bump from their 4th place finish, and you can see the full rankings at Sail1Design.com.
All right, thanks for that, Chris. Now moving on to the upcoming weekend. The first regatta we're going to review is the Ted Ferrone. Now this is actually named after one of Yale Sailing's favourite alumni. A little bit of history for you. In the 90s, Yale Sailing didn't actually have a coach, so Ted did a lot of the scheduling for the regattas himself. So when they didn't get into the Southern New England team race, he decided to create a team race of his own so the team could continue to practice. This is how the Ted Ferrone team race started. He was the captain, it was his idea, so he named it after himself.
Chalk Talk, your #1 source for Yale team history.
In the past couple of years, the Ted Ferrone has also been split between Roger Williams and Yale as the host sailing site. In years that nationals are hosted in FJs, it's hosted at Roger Williams, and in years that it's in 420s, it is hosted at Yale. So this year, at Roger Williams, we have the Ted Ferrone. And then it's back to fleet racing for the women at the Dallin Bar Women's Trophy sailed at Brown. This is a big event in the spring season for the women. We've got 4 out of the 5 top teams showing up. That's Yale, BC, St. Mary's and Navy. Missing in action is Georgetown, they're ranked 3rd overall, and Charleston currently ranked 7th overall. Do you guys think that BC can keep up their winning streak?
Yes, they can win again, and I believe that they will win again. I think that anytime you've got Erica Reinecke with her girl Elizabeth Barnard competing in either division, they are a landslide favorite to win. So yeah, they're going to win again. Go Eagles.
I know BC is a solid choice. I've picked them before. I also know after talking to the Yale team that they're feeling pretty good after the last couple of weekends, and I don't know who's sailing for them yet, but I know they have a solid lineup, so I'm going with Yale.
I think you guys are forgetting about those ninjas from Dartmouth. They haven't been on the water yet in women's sailing this season, but I think they're going to be swooping in and taking everybody by surprise here. Deirdre Lambert and Carissa Crawford in A Division, Chandler Salisbury and Maddie Gamble in B Division for the Big Green. What an amazing fall they had. And one of the coolest events in college sailing, in my opinion, the St. Francis Invite. Just look at this lineup, 28 teams scheduled to attend. It's a BYO boat event for anyone who can trailer, but they do have charters available, so they've attracted teams from as far away as Hawaii, Colorado, and of course my hometown here, Austin, Texas. Why is this event so popular? Well, the St. Francis Yacht Club is one of the most amazing yacht clubs in the country, overlooking San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate Bridge. Teams are going to have a good time this weekend out there. Maybe they'll catch a glimpse of an AC-72 ripping by at roughly 100 times the speed of an FJ. And in terms of competitiveness, I think Stanford has got to be the favorite here. But I'm also looking at CSU Long Beach. They're pretty good in both divisions. UC San Diego just came off a good South 5 regatta and should be in the hunt. And UCSB, Santa Barbara that is, has a good freshman in Ian Stokes in A Division, so they'll be competitive as well. What do you guys think?
Well, I think I may or may not have learned my lesson in picking against the Stanford Cardinals, so I'm going to go ahead and give those guys the nod. They've got Kieran Chung along with Yuri Namakawa going with Hans Hankin and Samantha Steele. So I think those guys far and away the best group out there, and I think they're going to walk away with this one.
Well, as you mentioned, St. Francis is a very particular venue. I'm going to go with the Gauchos from UC Santa Barbara. They came second at this event last year, which leads me to believe they know how to sail at St. Francis. And they also came third at the Designate Regatta last weekend, which shows that they've got a good team at the moment. So, Gauchos.
All right, well, I'm going to take CSU Long Beach.
Well, teams are going to show their dedication to team racing by competing during Passover as well as on Easter Sunday this weekend at the Southern New England Team Race hosted at Conn College. Lots of heavyweights coming out this weekend, including Boston College, Georgetown, Hobart, and Yale, along with Stanford, just to name a few. So I think it's going to be really close. Who do you guys like?
Stanford.
Wow, how creative of you guys. I'm going to go ahead with Yale this weekend. I think it's time. They're the defending champions. So, yeah, go Eli Bulldog things.
Cool. Well, Zeke, speaking of Yale, I did have a chance to catch up with coach Zack Leonard to get his perspective on this upcoming regatta and the rest of the season.
This year we've done a lot of team racing with our team in 6-boat team racing. Some years where we don't think we have the depth for that, we do more 4-boat stuff, or we'll reach out to other teams and practice with other teams. But this year we've been doing a lot of team racing with our team. And in particular, I think the Duplin Trophy has been quite good for that, because the women sailors who have been gearing up to sail that event have been more excited to get into team racing. So it's kind of brought the whole team into it a little bit more.
So do the co-ed team actually race against the female team race team?
Well, during break we had 5 or 6 teams all sailing together, and the Duplin team was able to sail in a tournament with a bunch of good teams and compete just fine against some of the varsity teams from other schools. Yeah.
And how do you feel going into defending the Southern New England team race champs this weekend? What do you think the team is focusing on?
Well, this is a completely different team than last year's team. Joe Morris has graduated, and he was a really experienced player. But this team has a lot of strengths and could be just as good. In this league, in the top college team racing league, there's so little difference between the top 5 or 7 teams that you can be just a tiny bit off on your game, and you can be finishing in the 5-6 range in a bunch of team race regattas, and you could still be the team that wins the national championship. So hopefully we sail well this weekend. I feel like we've improved quite a bit since the St. Mary's team race, but I'm sure everyone has. So it'll be good to see how we go.
So last year we obviously watched Yale do extremely well with a really solid team, and then not qualify for the national champs, which was sad for us to watch, and I'm sure sad for the sailors that didn't get to sail and compete at nationals. So how are you going to make sure that the team's ready to go and prep them as best as possible to not make that same mistake?
Well, every team is different, but I think that if you look back maybe at the last 5 years in New England, you'll see that each year one of the teams that everyone thinks could win the national championship in team racing doesn't make it through our championship. Last year, 1 win would have been the difference between 2nd and 4th. The year before, I thought Harvard had a real good chance to win the championship, and they didn't qualify. So that really can happen in our league because there's so much depth. If you run into a situation where you're racing in a condition where you have a weakness, it can be hard. So we're just trying to work on our weaknesses and keep improving. And I think if we do, we'll do well.
Do you think that New England should have another spot? I mean, with one of the best teams always not qualifying, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that it would be much better if we came up with a system that was more like the dinghy nationals, where the best 18 teams are on the line at the national championship. I think a semifinal type format would be a lot better.
That's it for us this week. Thank you for watching.
Good luck to team sailing this weekend.
Hey, bundle up and stay warm out there. Safety first.